right, Scott, we have one life. Or half-life.
It won't stay.
You've got to hold it down.
Alright, Scott, you and I got to check out Half-Life Alyx over on the Oculus Rift. Dude, not coming from a Half-Life background whatsoever, this whole area was kind of completely new to me. This whole storyline and who Alyx was and her dad and what he had to kind of deal with and the conflict that he kind of, almost in a sense, started?
Sort of, yeah. He meets you in a kind of an important time between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. The Black Mesa event has already happened, and the Combine have dominated Earth. Now, you are the daughter of the Resistance leader, and as such, you must get, resistance and garner it and fight against the Combine and survive. And nobody really expected this to come out on VR. It's not quite the awaited Half-Life 3, but it's certainly a good step.
Well, I know a lot of people were hoping for Half-Life 3 eventually, and then when they announced Half-Life Alyx, a lot of people were like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Are you like, they've wanted another Half-Life experience for so long, but dude, coming into VR, this puts you in an experience like no other. Like, I've never played a VR title like this thing. Like, Half-Life Alyx has gotta be giving it away pretty early, but Game of the Year for VR. Like, this is outstanding.
Yeah, it just hits some standards. It's going to set the bar. It's going to set the bar really high when it comes to anybody else having to compete with this VR game. I know the fans were kind of hesitant to get on board, but the fact that it's kind of paywalled behind virtual reality, but it's worth the dip. If you can get into it, this game is just as solid as any Half-Life game. It's just as detailed. It's just as story-driven. It's all about the human condition fighting against the Combine, and it really puts you in that universe. The level of detail is just insane.
Well, you and I were talking a while ago. When we play a lot of VR titles, you get into the world, and the textures feel muted, right? They're all blurry kind of thing and whatever. And sometimes you get higher experiences than others, but a lot of VR experiences are just a dull, muted tone. But when you jump into Half-Life Alyx, man, right from the get-go, that front screen, your load screen, that is phenomenal, and that's at the bar going forward. Like, I picked up a water bottle. Now, if you, like, to me, it's just a water bottle, but I thought, I gotta take a look inside the water bottle. And as you look in, dude, I can see all the ripples and the ridges and all the detail that's inside the bottle. Not on the outside, the inside. Like, I've never seen anything like this. The attention to detail in this world is bar none the best I've ever seen. Never mind in a VR game, in a game at all. Like this, it's just outstanding what they were able to accomplish here.
Yeah, now I have to mention that there's one other game that kind of focused on physics before this one, and I feel like they had some sort of insider information. And that one game, Boneworks, that's the one, Boneworks. Now that game is jam-packed with all different individual items and the physics associated with it.
Yeah.
But they just didn't quite hit the quality that you would come to expect from Valve the production behind Half-Life. They really succeeded in making every little item smashable or throwable, or you can pick it up with two hands if it's too heavy.
Yep.
The only thing that really kind of made that feel weird is that the enemies don't seem to have the same physics. So if I were to hit somebody with a chair, it doesn't seem to register. There's no melee combat at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like a ragdoll effect too on some of them, right? When you got the head crabs coming at you and you shoot them, it's kind of boo, and they kind of flop over and stuff.
Yeah,
but it's so cool still, man.
It leads to some fun, weird videos of people playing with bodies around the maps, but it doesn't really get in the way, except for in one example I can think of, and that's kind of there's these man hacks that fly at you, and they're a propeller with a saw blade on it, basically. And in the previous games, you could throw things at them to kind of destabilize and let them crash. But in this game, you can smack them with planks of wood. You can pin them against a wall. They're not going to die that way. So you have to shoot them. And that's kind of the only inconsistency I can find in this entire game.
Well, and the game, though, is littered with bullets at one extent, but then you go through the clips, and then all of a sudden you have nothing left. Like, your ammo is It's funny because I was playing the game and I'm going, man, I got all kinds of clips. I got 7 rounds here. I'm all good. And then I was instantly out because I had so many at me all at once that I was just, now I'm scrambling to find the ammo. And from there, I'm like, I was trying to punch the head crabs that were jumping at me and I was just dying. I'm like, I can't do that, which was kind of the crap, especially in VR because you're so used to, man, you're using your hands in VR, right? You're not using a controller. You have the paddles and controllers in your hands that you're actually swinging for these things. So to me, that made sense to start just kind of trying to punch them back. But in this game, you're not allowed. It's all about the shooting. And the shooting feels really good. And you're able to upgrade your guns and mechanics and all that. You know, the stuff you kind of come to expect. But at the same time, not the ability to hit your targets with your own fist when you are in a game that is so limited on ammo. 1 minute you have a ton and the next minute you're all out. So how do you survive that? And that was kind of a bit of a concern.
Canonically, at least in the game, maybe you can't be throwing punches. Your little Russell guy on the radio, he gave you some gloves and he doesn't want you to break them. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
But you should still be able to throw chairs at people. You know, I don't understand.
Something.
But
yeah.
There's the gameplay is split between the combat and the survival kind of thing. And then more of like a techno spy kind of thing. You have a device and you're able to hack into these Combine boxes and interact with their technology. And,
cool
and they play
too.
out. Yeah, they play out in little mini games. And I found that even though the mini games, there's only a few different types, they really do get deeper as you progress. They get more difficult in different stages. So it didn't ever get dry.
No, not at all. So one of the biggest problems I have in video games, Scott, is that the spookies just typically aren't for me, right? That's definitely up your alley, but when it comes to that scary horror aspect, and not that Half-Life is like a true horror experience, but it does have some of those jump scare moments, and man, I gotta be honest, it really got me. You know, I'm creeping through doorways, and you can hear, like, the audio within the game is it's so good. It sets that tone, and then the presence, and you're underground, and when you get the shadows and the deep, dark, dungy kind of feeling, it kind of weighs you down. So as you're trying to progress through, I'm opening up a door and I'm like just peeking in to see what's next and what's ahead of me. It was, for a guy who doesn't play this kind of stuff, man, it was pretty intense at moments. There's no doubt about it. One guy came barreling through some windows at me. Like, I actually screamed a little bit. Like, it's not my style. I'm a stealth guy. I like to hide in my shadows, but I'm not typically hunting down monsters when I play my games. But this one, dude, you gotta, if you have access to a VR, you need to try this game out. It is so cool, and it sets the bar for VR games moving forward, that a lot of them now, a lot of developers that are getting into VR, you got a bar you're going to have to try and reach that's just not like any other that's out there right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are detailed. There's a lot of good experiences that are short. This game is both detailed and extremely long.
Yes.
So I think it comes in at about 7 hours. It feels like it could be much longer. The way the horror presents itself, you can spend a lot of time creeping through.
Yep.
When you're not the scariest thing in the dark, it's certainly a roadblock. And then there's things like head crab nests and things that you can hear through doors, and that was I'm mildly arachnophobic. It kind of got to me eventually, having the thing trapped to my face and head crabs jumping at me. Like, it was good. There's a lot of spookies.
I love the way the controllers feel too. Sometimes when you're playing a game, a lot of it gets janky and it's not able to connect or feel natural. But here, everything, like when you pressed up against the wall, your hand it folds up and it kind of stops against it, right? So you kind of get that realism and aspect of what you're known to in the world, and it actually, all that detail is carried over into Half-Life Alyx. It is so cool.
Opening every cupboard for ammo, slamming shut drawers with your hand. There's a lot of different really cool interactions that you wouldn't normally think about, but in VR it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, you and I gushed over Half-Life Alyx now. Dude, this is, I think, easily one of the best VR titles out there. What do you score in this one?
Absolutely. Yeah, this one hit every nail on the head for me. It fits into the Half-Life universe just fine. Mm-hmm. It didn't give away what happens in Half-Life 3, so we even still have that to look forward to. It's so detailed, and it really immerses you in that experience of the human struggle with the Combine. This is the 10 out of 10 for me. There's, bar none, any sort of VR game that reaches this at all.
Yeah, they like Valve have really set the bar high for anybody stepping into the VR space. It's not an experience. It is an actual full-length production of a game that will have you there for hours. And even for a guy who's not into that kind of genre, this is incredible. I'm there with a 10 as well.
This is VR Game of the Year material. Half-Life Alyx has raised the standards for all VR titles to come. You watched that video. If you want to see more like it, check out our channel. Subscribe.